income for this quarter, we ended with just over 4,000 crores, which is about 16.8% higher than what we did the last year. Our other income, we clocked 1,334 crores this quarter, which is tad lower than last year. But if we split the other income into fees and services, the fees and services at 1,170 crores is a shade over last year and about 11% higher than what we did in the previous quarter. The fees and services largely comprises also of distribution, mutual fund, insurance, a lot of the other wealth products and whatnot. The non-fees and services part of the other income, which largely comprises treasury related, we clocked 164 crores this quarter compared to the immediately preceding quarter where we had talked about some one-time gains. That was at 394 crores. So this quarter, the treasury profits, which is part of other income, is at 164 crores compared to what we did last quarter. Uh, on our overall expenses front, as we had said last quarter, the activity levels have picked up, and we've therefore seen expenses coming back on promotional areas, whether it is credit card related, whether it is advertisement related, as we've stepped up our loan book on brokerage as well as on collections. At the operating profit level, that's pre-provisioning profit, we clocked 3,083 crores for this quarter, as against last year we had 2,388 crores, so which is about 29% higher number than the same period last year. The immediately preceding quarter, we were at 3,297 crores. When it comes to provisioning, it is, as you're aware, the Supreme Court had passed interim order that banks and NBFCs will not declare new accounts as NPAs from 1st of September. So technically, accounts have not been called as NPAs. However, what we have done is any account or any borrower, even if one of his accounts was a 90-day plus overdue as of 31st of December, we have considered that to be a problem account and made full provision of what we would have otherwise done for such account. Not only have we made the provision at the level of for NPAs, but for these accounts, if there is any interest which has been not collected right from the time he's not paid, the entire interest for the period has also been taken as a provision item. So as a result, you would find that the total provisions has gone up, and we have a total provision line of 641 crores on account of advances, which includes a large part, almost all of it, as coming in from the Supreme Court related NPAs, which is the pro forma NPAs. Uh, and mind you, the interest which we are talking about here is not just interest for 3 months and whatnot, because there will be cases which have remained unpaid for a longer period of time, because there would be borrowers who have taken the benefit of moratorium. So during the moratorium period, there was a full standstill on the count of days, and when the 90-day cross happened, we have kind of made a provision for the entire interest for the whole period since he stopped paying. So that's a decent number when it comes to the provision item. Uh, so at the pre-tax level, therefore, we end up with a pre-tax profit in the bank of 2,484 crores, which is 27% higher than the 1,944 crores which we had declared in quarter three last year. Last year, we had talked about the fact that in that quarter three, we had got some favorable tax orders, as a result of which the tax provision was lower. But if I adjust for that, we end this quarter with a post-tax profit of 1,854 crores. On our total advances, we end this quarter with a total advance of 2,14,000 crores in the bank, which if I look at on a quarter-on-quarter basis, is a growth of 4.5%, which is about 18% annualized. We've seen growth coming in this quarter in the home loans and LAP segment, bulk of it happening in the home loan segment. We've also grown our book in the consumer secured basis, which is now going into the 20,000 mark. Uh, we've also grown areas like tractors, which has seen a quarter growth of over 9%, and a YOY growth continues. The corporate book again, which includes the non-SME part, has grown to close to 60,000, which is for the quarter a 6.7% increase. On the other hand, we have continued to go slow on the unsecured pieces. The unsecured consumer, which comprises credit card, personal loans, business loans, and consumer durables, which is all of about 12,000 crores, which is lower than what we had at this time last year. Our balance sheet size at the bank now at 3.8, 3,89,000 crores. Our GNPA, which would be on the basis of what has been declared as NPA at 2.26%, compared to what we were last year at 2.46 and 2.55 in September 2020. Our net NPA on declared basis at 0.50, as against 0.89 1 year ago. If you take the Supreme Court 90-day overdue accounts, the GNPA would be 3.27% and the net number at 1.24%. And the large part of a disproportionate part of the delta comes from the unsecured consumer pieces. The credit cost, if I look at what is the declared number at 120 bips for the quarter, but if I adjust for the fact that we've taken interest as a provision item, if I take that out, the credit cost will end up being at 86 bips for this quarter. We at this stage, therefore, we have a pretty adequate provision for what we have as GNPAs, pro forma GNPAs, and all of it. We do believe that we are pretty adequately covered on those accounts. Our SMA2 for this period ending at 654 crores. Our CASA continues to grow. We have a CASA percentage of 58.9% at the end of this period, which compares with what we had 1 year ago at 53.7. Our current account balances year on year has grown by 19.5%, whereas our savings account balances have grown by 22%. And if I take the non-MYBOR link, that has grown by 25% on a year-on-year basis. As you are aware, we had reduced savings interest rates during the year, and our savings cost during this quarter at 3.81% compared to about 5.27 that we had a year ago. In addition to CASA, we also have the sweep deposits, which now constitute a healthy, an additional 8.1% of our overall deposit base. Our CASA plus the TDs below 5 crores now comprising a healthy 92% of our total deposit base. Our capital adequacy, including the profits for this period, at 23.62%, with Tier 1 itself at 23% of the overall numbers. If I take the consolidated numbers, we of course, we talked about the bank contributing 1,854 crores to the overall profits of the consolidated entity. The the total consolidated profits for the quarter at 2,602 crores compared to 2,349 for the same period last year. The post-tax profit again impacted to an extent by the tax benefits which we had got in Q3 last year in the bank. The other contributors to the profits apart from the bank being Kotak Securities, which has brought in 184 crores post-tax profit this year compared to 128 last year. The life insurance company at 167 crores, almost the same level as what it was last year. The car finance company at 149 crores. The other NBFC, which is Kotak Mahindra Investments at 68 crores. The mutual fund business at 91 crores. We've seen the premiums in Kotak Life continue to grow up, including and the AUM again continuing to grow up. The market share in Kotak Securities of the cash market, excluding the prop volumes, we at 9.1%. On the overall assets that we manage across the group, we crossed the 3 lakh crore mark, and we are now at 3 lakh 14,000, which is almost a 20% jump on a year-on-year basis. And what we have as relationship value of all our wealth, priority, and other customers at 3 lakh 75,000, which again is a 22% higher from what we had last year. Our advances at the group level at 2 lakh 41,000 crores, which is, if I look at a quarter-on-quarter basis, a 3.7% jump from the number which was there in September. Our capital adequacy at the bank at the consolidated level at 24.87% includes 24.33 of Tier 1 itself. A total reserves and capital at a healthy 82,000 crores, and we end this period with a book value of 412 rupees per share. So that's broad highlights of what we did this quarter. We'd be open to taking questions from you guys.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. So, all I wanted to understand, you said that you're looking at certain specific secured segments like tractor lending, etc., to grow your book. Any other bigger segments that you would probably look at, and when, at what point do you think that the unsecured book is likely to come back? Because that has continued to shrink over the last few quarters. My second question is with respect to the pro forma numbers. Now, you revealed 3.27% of gross NPA on the pro forma side. What is the recovery expectation there? I mean, you said that you made additional provisions against these accounts. Are we to expect that it's probably going to be a long haul before these accounts come back to normalcy?
So if I take two questions, the first one being on the where we've seen growth. If you looked at it sometime in this quarter or just before that, we had given a thrust on our home loan businesses, and we've seen a big growth coming in the home loan segment. That in this quarter, if you look at the mortgage business, has grown by almost 2,000 crores, and bulk of it has come in from the home loan activity. So that's another big area of the consumer, the secured consumer, which we would continue to grow. The unsecured piece, well, even before the pandemic started in March, we had actually slowed down the growth on both the credit cards and the unsecured retail, and we've continued to do that. And I think we will wait for signals to start seeing that growth coming back. On the other hand, as I mentioned, yes, while we have the GNPA at 3.27, if I look at the overall number of GNPA and look at our overall provisions, we are pretty much covered on that on the GNPA line itself. And our current belief is that we have pretty much adequate provision on what we see as coming in from these assets.
No, of course, the provisions I'm not questioning. I'm trying to get a sense of the recovery potential as far as these accounts are concerned.
So you'll see you're seeing recoveries happening, but it is still slower on these accounts. And even if you look overall, the unsecured pieces are showing some signs of taking time to come back. And when we say that, they've gone into a 90-day plus, it does take effort to get back them. But I think we are getting some movements coming in, but it's still trickling in.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Saloni, you are next, please.
Yeah, thanks, Rohit. Good afternoon, sirs. I just wanted to get a sense on where, here onwards, as the bank is looking at the economy in per se and growing the business, because your bank was in fact the first ones to take the conservative approach way back in second to third quarter of last fiscal year itself. Now we are seeing quarter on quarter credit growth sequentially. This quarter also we have seen the book degrow. As we stand here, one more quarter left for this fiscal year. When do you see? Is there any view? Midterm view as to when will you be able to shed this conservatism that you continue to have?
Actually, if you look at quarter on quarter, the advances book has grown, and we've grown, if you annualize it, that has grown by 18%. So that's a pretty healthy growth for the quarter. We've grown from about 204,000 crores to 214,000 crores in this quarter itself. So we talked about it in October at the end of the quarter two results that we are seeing momentum coming back, and we would be calibrated in where we grow. And we have seen that growth happening in pockets which we are comfortable. So at the 4.5% growth for the quarter, we've seen a reasonable amount of growth coming back.
In terms of aversion to certain segments, which are the segments which you still see pain continuing? Your pro forma numbers don't look very alarming. You also say that you have provisions which will cover those, but there will be some segments. I mean, last quarter you said that mortgage is what you are comfortable growing, unsecured is what you're not comfortable growing. So at the end of this quarter, if you look forward, which are the segments where you still see that you want to stay away from?
Saloni, I don't think there is any segment which we are saying we'll stay away from. I think we just have to watch more closely some of the segments before we start pressing the accelerator on those segments. At this point of time, the foot has moved from the brake to the accelerator on the secured products, and mortgages you saw, similarly some of the agri products you see, some of the SME businesses, some of the corporate businesses. That's where it is still attractive. The others, particularly the unsecured retail consumer related ones, we just need to be more cautious and wait before we start pressing the accelerator on this.
If I can slip in just one more question. Sorry, Rohit, I said you. You said two questions.
Yeah, sure.
Just Deepak sir, a sense from you as to where you see this, because last year you had said there are several moving parts. Now, have those moving parts lessened? Are you seeing from here onwards? Are you seeing next year? Obviously, there is, because of the base effect, the economy set to grow. So, does that mean that there are lesser unknowns, as you put it?
Well, the problem just now is it is very much what people talk of in terms of a K movement. Yeah, there are some parts of the economy which are accelerating very, very fast and doing very, very well, and that may be because of domestic as well as international reasons. There are some which are in trouble and continue to be in trouble. So that is why there are just too many moving parts. Say for example, a sector like steel. Traditionally, you are careful. This is a core sector, long-term requirements, but just now steel is booming. Yeah, and a combination of domestic as well as international. So steel is on the upside of the K curve really, but on the lower side, still maybe infrastructure may still be, you have to be careful about. Hospitality has started picking up really. Again, a lot of anecdotal examples of how it is picking up, but passenger movement in hospitality has started moving. Yeah, the capex movement and hence the funding requirement movement in hospitality will still take some time really. So that is why I'm saying, and we've already maintained that there are so many moving parts. But you see, from a banker's perspective, from our own risk assessment perspective, the secured side is pretty good. Yeah, particularly things like mortgages are very good. And remember, increasingly, like Jaimin explained, we have a very, very strong cost of fund advantage now in the marketplace. Yeah, with our CASA ratio and overall cost of funds, it is a very comparative proposition which we have on the secured side. So we've said, hey, let's move on the secured side. It is retail customers. It adds a customer franchise at the same time, and long-term customer franchise. It gives profitability, and it is relatively secure. So that's where we've moved more, decisive.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Saloni. Chris Thomas has a question. He couldn't raise his hand, but he has shared it on the chat. Chris, would you like to go?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, so can you give us an idea of how you see credit growth shape up for the rest of the year, and also NIM? And secondly, you had said last quarter that credit growth will be restrained until the economy bounces back. So I wanted to see if you can give us some sense of, does Kotak have any expectations from the budget that'll sort of spur this growth that will eventually boost credit growth?
Well, one is our anticipation, B is on the budget side. So let me address our part of it. I think from our point of view, it is looking significantly better. There are segments which are looking very, very attractive at this point of time. And one is trading reasonably well in those sectors. Having said that, it is not victory all over at this point of time. Yeah, there are segments we still have to be cautious about, careful about. And like Jaimin explained, this whole NPA issue of recognition and reality will get resolved only after the tag of NPA is either put or lifted. And what I mean really is, unless these customers come and actually start paying, it is very difficult for anyone to say how good or bad it will look like. And that is what one has to still watch out for. And a disproportionate part of the overall so-called pro forma NPA is actually on the consumer unsecured retail side. So that piece, I think one still will have to wait and watch. Certain sectors one will still have to wait and watch, which are getting out of the problem zone, but have still not got onto a growth zone. And there are some sectors which have done extremely well and continue to do very well. And some organizations within those sectors which again have done very well. And those are the ones for us to focus on. From an overall growth point of view, like Jaimin explained, it's been about 4.5% for the quarter. So that annualized itself is about 18%, and that is the start of the curve. So one would expect an improvement on that as we move forward.
Thank you.
So, any number you can give us on the credit growth front for the year?
No, we don't have a number.
Okay, what about the NIM front?
When there is opportunity, you will want to grab that opportunity.
Right. What about the NIM front, sir?
I think NIM is, if you see the NIM traditionally for us has been in the 4.25 to 4.5% range. It starts at the upper end of the 4.5 point and starts moving down as growth happens. And that's, I think, what you should really expect. But generally, broadly, it should be possible for us to maintain it in this range.
Okay. Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you.
Chris. Bina, you are next. Bina Parmar.
Yeah, hi. Just wanted a number, the quantum of the one-time restructuring that you mentioned in the press release. It says 0.28% of net advances. Could you give us an absolute quantum of it?
Would be about slightly less than 600 crores, somewhere around that. About 600 crores, close to that.
600 crore. Okay. And just one more thing on the stressed assets being bought. I think, you buy through your ARC. So could you throw some light on what kind of assets or what's the quantum of assets bought? And if at all you've sold it to your own ARC from the bank as well?
I can make one statement. We have not sold anything, not just now, but even earlier. We haven't sold anything to our own ARC or anything else. First of all, what Phoenix does is independent.
Sure.
So we've not sold anything either this quarter or the year.
Okay. And
just to add to Jaimin Bhatt, Bina, bank doesn't buy through Phoenix. That's an independent company.
Okay.
Bank has its own book and Phoenix has its own book. They're two different entities.
Okay.
It's not a vehicle for bank.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
Got it.
Yeah. Ask next, Bina.
That's
you have
it.
one more
That's
question
it from my side. No.
Okay. Ritu, you are next, please.
Hi, I just wanted to understand what is the reason for this big jump in the SMA2 book within the quarter from 133 crores to about 650 crores now?
Just to take that, what happened in the whole moratorium period is anybody who had taken that moratorium, the whole count of days had stopped. So anybody who was into the moratorium period had, even if he was any time overdue, he was not paying till August, he was not being counted. But now that you opened up the moratorium period, he's not he's not got into NPA, but he's not paying you the full amount. So if he was, say, one installment due or two installment due on 31st of August, he's paying you one installment and whatnot. So he's continuing to pay that. A lot of them are continuing to pay that. But the fact is, during that interim period, while he was not paying, the number of days were not being counted, and that was what was the mandate. And to that extent, therefore, his 60-day plus starts getting into the count in this quarter, and that's where it's happening.
And any
It's
number
time
you
for
could
people to normalize, yeah, because immediately out of the moratorium, if you were behind earlier, it doesn't mean that just the moratorium is over and you will come and pay and regularize. It takes some amount of time. But just one other clarification, that number of SMA2 is probably still amongst the lowest in the banking industry.
Okay. Have you provided for these also the same way that you're doing for the other accounts that have almost 90 days of overdues, where you've provided the entire interest amount?
No, you provide
No.
90-day plus. You don't provide for less than 90.
No, so these would
That
be
is
what
part of the
that's standard.
standard provisioning. And there is, mind you, there is still a 1,350 odd crores of overall COVID provisioning, which is there in any case. Remember that. And we haven't used up any of those provisionings in this quarter.
Okay, thank you.
So
Hitesh,
at the end of the day, the COVID provisioning is ultimately to take care of some of these. Yeah.
thank you, Deepak. Hitesh? Hitesh is not. Anybody else would like to ask some question? I don't see any hand. Ritu, your hand is up again. Please ask.
Sorry, I just wanted to check, keeping all of this in mind, the restructured book is very small, but the SMA2 numbers and the ones with more than 90 days of overdue, any credit cost guidance you could give us?
The credit cost, like Jaimin explained, is just now on a pro forma basis looking at around 1.2. But if you exclude, the credit cost is about 0.85, 0.86, which is, last year we were at about 0.8-ish. So it's ballpark around the same figure.
No, for the entire fiscal year, including the last quarter that is to come.
See, at this stage, so it will be somewhere between this 0.85 and 1.2. Yeah, because it depends whether some of these 90 days we are in a position to recover or some of these get written off.
Thank you.
So what's happening is, in this whole period, whether it is moratorium, moratorium 1, moratorium 2, restructuring, Supreme Court deferrals, so all of that has made this year something which is very different from what people have been used to.
Thank you, Jaimin. Ritu, you're done, or you have one more question?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Hitesh, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sir, in terms of capital, are you looking to raise anything in this quarter?
I've got 23% tier 1 capital. I have no reason to raise any more capital.
And my second question is, what do you attribute the 16% rise in your profit in Q3 to?
Basically, we've seen growth. We've seen advances coming back. We've also, during this period, if you look at the whole the way we look, the expenses have been under control. Other OPEX, other income has grown. So from a year-on-year basis, there's more efficiency which has got in there. And I think to that extent, we've set the framework to see how we can grow from here.
Oh, thank you.
It's a combination of asset growth and the spread growth, which is giving you the NII growth.
Okay.
And the expenses haven't grown as much really, or as fast.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepak. Vishwanath?
Hi, sir. Sorry, I had to come back since you mentioned this 23% capital adequacy. On one side, you have been managing your savings cost well by pricing it better. But on the other hand, you continue to hold this excess capital with fewer and fewer sectors, it seems, that you're comfortable putting your foot on the accelerator to. Just trying to get a sense, are you holding this capital handy for something else? Is the expectation that there could be some kind of inorganic growth?
Well, we always remain open for inorganic. It's not that, we always maintain that, if there's any opportunity on inorganic which fits in with our strategy, which comes at the right valuation and whatnot, we'll always be willing to look at it, but not doing an inorganic for the sake of saying we will want to do an inorganic. So we'll be watching out.
When we had raised this capital the last time in the month of May, we had mentioned that, any such stressful environment will create opportunities. Will create opportunities for inorganic in not just necessarily the banking space. It could be in the asset space itself. It could be in any of the financial services businesses in which we are space. And yes, this capital is a useful, buffer to keep for, exploiting any of those opportunities which we come. And like Jaimin explained, we are continuously evaluating opportunities, and it's something attractive.
Anything on the table right now? That's probably the bigger question.
No, there is nothing on the table. It's always a constant state of evaluation. But any such situation which we've been through these last 10 months will create opportunity.
Is this not hitting your cost band though?
No, it doesn't hit the cost band.
I mean, you're holding a lot of money and it's not really being deployed in assets as fast as it, usually.
But this is equity, no?
Right, got it.
But you see what is also happening, remember, is our cost of funds has come down very significantly. You must get the gist of what Jaimin was saying. Between a 59% CASA and a 7-8% sweep, we are running CASA-like cost for close to 68%, which is giving us probably amongst the lowest cost structure in the banking industry.
And as I mentioned, the savings rate, the saving cost has dropped from about 5.3 last year to 3.8.
And that's a phenomenal advantage to get into a growth phase. Yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you so much.
If we don't have any more questions, can we conclude? Friends, that's about it. I don't think, people have questions. Thank you, friends, for joining. Again, apologies for a late start. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Jaimin, please,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe and take care.
Thank you.